The words hit me like a slap across the face, but it was the steaming cup of water that truly burned. Mom, if you're going to live here rent-free, at least make yourself useful. Fetch me a glass of water. Cold. Not this boiling mess. Are you trying to scald me to death? My daughter-in-law, Sophia, sneered from the couch, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on her phone. She was in her early 30s, with sharp features framed by sleek black hair that fell to her shoulders, always dressed in designer yoga pants and tops that screamed, "I don't lift a finger around here." At 68, I, Ava Lockwood, felt like a relic in my own son's home. A faded floral blouse and worn jeans, my graying hair pulled into a simple bun, my hands calloused from years of scrubbing floors and raising kids alone after my husband passed. I stood in the kitchen of their spacious suburban house in Seattle, the kind with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances I'd never dreamed of owning. My eldest son, Ethan, and his wife, Sophia, had invited me to live with them 5 years ago, after my small apartment in rural Oregon became too much to maintain on my Social Security checks. But invitation felt more like obligation, and usefulness was code for servitude. "Sophia, honey, don't be so hard on Mom," Ethan called from the living room, not looking up from his laptop. He was 42, tall and broad-shouldered like his father, with a neatly trimmed beard and glasses that made him look the part of the successful software engineer he was. But his voice lacked conviction. It was easier to placate than defend. I poured the water carefully, my arthritis flaring as I gripped the kettle. The steam rose like a warning, but I handed it over anyway. Sophia took a sip without glancing up, then spat it out dramatically. "This is scorching. You old fool! Are you deaf or just stupid? I said cold." The cup tipped, hot liquid splashing across my arm. Pain seared through my skin, but I bit back a cry. "I'm sorry, dear. Let me get you another." My voice was steady, trained from decades of swallowing pride. Inside, though, something flickered, a spark of resentment I'd long buried. That evening, as I bandaged my blistered arm in the tiny guest room they'd shoved me into, more like a converted storage space with a twin bed and no window, I heard them arguing in hushed tones. "Your mom's becoming a liability, Ethan. She's clumsy, forgetful, useless. And with the baby on the way, we can't have her around causing accidents." Sophia's voice was laced with venom. Ethan sighed. "She's family, Soph. We can't just kick her out." But his tone suggested he was considering it. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, remembering how I'd scraped together every penny to put Ethan through college after his dad died of a heart attack when the boys were young. Double shifts at the diner, skipping meals so they could have new shoes. And now? Useless. The next morning, the tension boiled over. My younger son, Dylan, 40 with his tousled brown hair and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, dropped by with his wife, Isabella, a petite woman in her late 30s with highlighted blonde waves and a perpetual smirk. They lived nearby in a cozy townhouse, courtesy of Dylan's job as a mechanic. "Mom, we need to talk," Dylan said, avoiding my eyes. "Ethan says you're causing issues again. Spilling hot water? Come on, that's dangerous, especially with Sophia pregnant." Isabella chimed in, her voice dripping with false concern. "Yeah, Ava, maybe it's time you went back to Oregon. You're not getting any younger, and frankly, you're a burden here." Burden. The word stung worse than the burn. I'd moved here to help, cooking, cleaning, babysitting their kids when needed. But to them, I was an outdated appliance, taking up space. "I didn't mean to," I whispered, but they weren't listening. Ethan nodded. "Mom, we're thinking assisted living. It's for your own good." My heart twisted. Assisted living? With what money? Mine went to their educations, their weddings. I felt the room spin, my chest tightening. "Please don't send me away. I'll be more careful." But their faces were set, cold, unyielding. As they left, whispering about costs, I collapsed into a chair. the blister throbbing. For the first time, I wondered if this was how it ended, discarded like yesterday's trash. But deep down, that spark ignited into something fiercer. Suspense hung in the air like the steam from that fateful cup. I wasn't done yet. The rain-slicked streets of Seattle blurred past the bus window as I stared out, my blistered arm throbbing beneath the makeshift bandage I'd wrapped around it. The journey back to Oregon felt like an eternity, each mile pulling me further from the life I'd built, or rather, the illusion of one. At 68, with my silver-streaked hair matted from the downpour and my face etched with lines of exhaustion and betrayal, I looked every bit the defeated woman my son saw me as. But deep inside, a quiet fury simmered, refusing to be extinguished. How could they do this to me? I whispered to myself, replaying the accusations that had shattered our already fragile bonds. It had all started innocently enough. A missing gold necklace, the one Ethan had given Sophia for their anniversary. She'd stormed into the kitchen that afternoon, her sharp features twisted in rage, her sleek black hair swinging as she pointed an accusatory finger at me. "Where is it, Ava? My necklace. It's gone. I know you took it." Sophia's voice was shrill, echoing off the granite countertops. She was dressed in her usual chic ensemble, a fitted blouse and designer jeans that hugged her slim figure, her makeup impeccable as always. Ethan trailed behind her, his broad shoulders slumping slightly under the weight of the confrontation. At 42, with his neatly trimmed beard and glasses perched on his nose, he looked every bit the harried software engineer caught between loyalties. I stood there, frozen in the middle of chopping vegetables for dinner, my floral blouse speckled with flour from earlier baking. "Sophia, I swear, I haven't seen it. I only dusted your room yesterday. I didn't touch your jewelry box." My voice trembled, not from guilt, but from the sheer disbelief that my own family could suspect me. Ethan rubbed his temples, avoiding my eyes. "Mom, come on. Things have been disappearing lately. Remember the $20 from my wallet last week? And now this? Sophia's sure it was there this morning." Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Dylan and Isabella walked in, summoned by Sophia's frantic text. Dylan, my younger son at 40 with his tousled brown hair and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow from long days at the auto shop, looked uncomfortable as he hung up his grease-stained jacket. Isabella, petite and poised, with her highlighted blonde waves cascading down her back, crossed her arms immediately. "What's going on? Ethan said there's been a theft?" Sophia whirled on them, her eyes narrowing. "Yes, my gold necklace, poof, vanished. And who else has access to our bedroom? Ava, of course. She's the only one who cleans in there." Dylan's face hardened, though I caught a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Mom, if you needed money for something, you could have just asked us. We would have helped." Isabella smirked, her voice dripping with condescension. "People from those small towns like yours, I guess old habits from rural life die hard, huh? Sneaking things when no one's looking." The words hit like daggers, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. I'd raised these boys alone after their father died young, working double shifts at a diner to pay for their clothes, their education, their dreams. And now, they stood there, judging me as if I were a common thief. The search that followed was nothing short of humiliating. They demanded I empty my purse, then rifled through my tiny guest room, a cramped space they'd converted from a storage closet, with just a twin bed, a rickety dresser, and no natural light filtering in. My few belongings spilled out, faded family photos of their father smiling proudly, a couple of hand-knitted scarves I'd made for the grandkids during quiet evenings, some spare change in a jar. Nothing valuable, certainly no necklace. Sophia huffed, unsatisfied. She must have hidden it somewhere else, or pawned it already. Ethan sighed, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Mom, this isn't the first incident. We can't keep ignoring it. What if it happens again?" I protested, tears welling up despite my efforts to stay strong. "I didn't take anything. Please believe me." I've only ever tried to help around here. But their faces were set in stone, etched with suspicion and impatience. Dylan shifted uncomfortably. Mom, maybe it's the stress or age, forgetting things, taking stuff by mistake. We just want what's best. Isabella nodded eagerly. Exactly. And with the baby coming, we can't risk any more accidents or disappearances. Maybe it's time you went back to Oregon, Ava. Start fresh, away from all this tension. The word burden hung unspoken in the air, but I felt it like a weight on my chest. I'd moved to Seattle 5 years ago at their insistence, leaving behind my quiet life in rural Oregon to be closer to family. I'd cooked their meals, cleaned their homes, babysat when they went out, all without complaint. And for what? To be accused, demeaned, and discarded. That evening, as they discussed options in the living room, assisted living facilities, senior homes I couldn't afford, I packed my bag in silence. My hands shook as I folded my worn clothes, the blister from the hot water incident pulsing with every movement. Slipping out into the rainy night, I whispered a goodbye to the house that had never truly felt like home. The bus ticket to Portland burned in my pocket, a ticket to freedom or uncertainty, I wasn't sure which. But as the city lights faded behind me, one thing crystallized. This fracture in our bonds wasn't just their doing. I'd allowed it by staying silent too long. No more. I'd uncover the truth, rebuild my life, and show them what they'd lost. The suspense of what lay ahead gnawed at me, but for the first time in years, it felt like hope. The relentless rain drummed against the bus window like accusing fingers, blurring the gray Seattle skyline as it receded into the distance. My blistered arm pulsed with a sharp, insistent pain beneath the thin bandage I'd fashioned from an old scarf in my bag. The journey south to Oregon stretched out like an endless tunnel, each bump in the road jolting me back to the harsh reality of my exile. At 68, with my silver-streaked hair damp and clinging to my forehead, and my face lined with the weariness of betrayal, I felt utterly adrift. How did it come to this? I murmured to myself, my voice lost in the hum of the engine. I'd poured my life into raising Ethan and Dylan, endless nights of overtime at the diner after their father's sudden heart attack, sacrificing my own dreams so they could chase theirs. And now, cast out like a criminal over baseless accusations, I wondered if I'd ever truly known my own sons. By the time the bus pulled into Portland, exhaustion had settled into my bones like an unwelcome guest. I trudged through the drizzle to Juanita's modest bungalow on the outskirts of town, my lifelong friend who'd always been my anchor in stormy times. Juanita, a sturdy woman in her mid-60s with curly gray hair framing her warm, round face, opened the door with a gasp. "Ava, you look like you've been through hell. Come in, let's get you dry." She was dressed in her usual comfortable sweater and jeans, her home smelling of fresh-baked bread and chamomile tea. I collapsed onto her worn couch, the familiar comfort bringing tears I could no longer hold back. Over steaming mugs, I poured out the whole sordid tale, the scalding water incident, the escalating accusations of theft, the humiliating searches, and finally, the cold dismissal as a burden unfit to be around the upcoming grandchild. Juanita listened without interruption, her kind brown eyes narrowing in quiet anger. "Those ungrateful wretches," she said finally, her voice steady but edged with fury. "After everything you've done, working double shifts, skipping meals to buy them school supplies, selling your own jewelry to cover their college fees, and this is how they repay you? Ava, you deserve better. We'll figure this out together." Her words were a balm, reminding me I wasn't entirely alone. But as the evening wore on, a fever crept in, hot and unrelenting. Whether from the infected burn or the emotional toll, I couldn't tell. Juanita tucked me into her guest bed with cool cloths and aspirin, but sleep brought no peace, only delirium. In the haze of fever dreams, fragments of the past replayed with unnatural clarity, as if my subconscious was piecing together a puzzle I'd ignored for too long. I relived moments from the last 5 years in Seattle, but now with eyes wide open. There was Sophia, slipping into Ethan's study late at night, rifling through his wallet and pocketing bills while he slept, her furtive glances ensuring no one saw. Another vision, Isabella visiting, borrowing Sophia's jewelry box during a bathroom break, her smirk hidden as she palmed the gold necklace, and me, always the scapegoat, blamed for the disappearances because I was the outsider from rural Oregon, the one they deemed forgetful or desperate. It wasn't me, I gasped in my dream, the realizations crashing like waves. These weren't just hallucinations. They were suppressed observations, truths I'd buried to preserve the fragile family peace. I woke in a sweat-soaked tangle of sheets, the fever breaking as dawn filtered through the curtains. Juanita hovered nearby with a concerned frown. "You were mumbling all night, Ava. Something about theft and proof. Feeling better?" I nodded weakly, but my mind was sharper than ever. "Juanita, it wasn't me stealing. It was them. Sophia, Isabella. I saw it, like memories I'd pushed down." We talked it through over breakfast, and it made sense. The convenient timings, the quick accusations to deflect suspicion. "I need to go back," I declared, my voice gaining strength. Not to beg, but to gather evidence. Prove my innocence and expose the truth. Juanita's eyes sparkled with determination. "Smart plan, but let's do it right. No rushing in blindly. Borrow my old phone. It's got a camera app that records discreetly. Set it up in your room or the living room. Observe. Don't confront until you have solid proof." We strategized for hours. I'd return unannounced, play the remorseful mother, and wait for them to slip up. By afternoon, I was on another bus north, heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. What if they turned me away? Or worse, what if my suspicions were wrong? But doubt fueled my determination. This time, I'd face them on my terms. Arriving at Ethan's door that evening, I knocked hesitantly, rain dripping from my coat. Sophia answered, her made-up face registering shock before settling into a forced smile. "Ava, what are you doing here? We thought you'd gone back to Oregon for good." Ethan appeared behind her, his broad frame filling the doorway, guilt flickering in his eyes behind his glasses. "Mom, we weren't expecting you. Come in. It's pouring out there." I stepped inside, dripping on the polished hardwood floors. "I couldn't stay away. I miss my family. Please let me make things right. I'll be more careful, I promise." They exchanged glances, Sophia's lips pursing in reluctance, but Ethan nodded. "Okay, Mom. You can stay for now. But no more incidents." I settled back into the cramped guest room, heart racing as I positioned Juanita's phone on a shelf, hidden among books, its camera app set to record motion. Over the next few days, I played the part, cooking meals, cleaning quietly, biting my tongue at their snide remarks. "Don't burn the dinner again, Ava," Sophia would snap, her belly rounding with the pregnancy. Ethan avoided deep conversations, burying himself in work. Dylan and Isabella visited, the tension palpable. "Glad you're back, Mom," Dylan said awkwardly, but his eyes held wariness. Then, opportunity struck. I accidentally left my purse on the kitchen counter one evening, with $200 visibly tucked inside. The next morning, it was gone. "Has anyone seen my money? I need it for groceries," I asked innocently over breakfast. Denials flew. "Not me," Sophia said quickly, avoiding my gaze. Ethan frowned. "Mom, are you sure you didn't misplace it?" Dylan, visiting again, shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, things have a way of disappearing around here." But I stayed calm, knowing the truth was captured. That night, reviewing the footage alone my suspicions confirmed, Sophia glancing around furtively, slipping into the kitchen after everyone slept, opening my purse, and pocketing the bill with a smug grin. My hands shook with a mix of vindication and heartbreak. The next morning, I gathered them in the living room. "I have something to show you," I said steadily, playing the video on the phone's screen. Gasps filled the room as Sophia's actions played out. That's not what it looks like, she stammered, her face paling. Ethan stared in shock. Sophia? You stole from Mom? And probably from me too? Dylan rubbed his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you. Chaos erupted. Accusations flew between them. Sophia denying everything, Isabella defending her weakly. But for me, it was enough. You've treated me like a criminal for years, ignoring my sacrifices. I'm done being your scapegoat. I packed my bag once more, the weight lighter this time. As I walked out into the fresh Seattle air, Ethan's voice called after me. Mom, wait, please stay and let's fix this. But it was too late. I headed back to Juanita's, ready to rebuild on my own terms. The suspense of what came next, confronting their deeper betrayals, loomed, but for the first time, I felt in control. Back in Portland, the familiar warmth of Juanita's bungalow enveloped me like a comforting embrace after the cold rejection in Seattle. The small house, with its cozy living room filled with mismatched furniture and the scent of her famous herbal teas, felt like a sanctuary. Juanita, my steadfast friend with her curly gray hair and a face lined with years of shared laughter and hardships, listened intently as I recounted the painful confrontation and my dramatic exit. Ava, you've been through the ringer, but look at you, still standing tall, she said, her voice firm and encouraging. At 68, I often felt like a wilted flower, my silver-streaked hair unkempt and my blue eyes shadowed with fatigue. But her words sparked a renewed fire within me. You're right, Juanita. I can't let them define me anymore. I've always been resourceful. It's time to use that to rebuild my life. We spent the next few days brainstorming ways to turn my small savings into something sustainable. Remember how we used to spot bargains at the farmer's market back in our younger days? Juanita reminisced, her round face lighting up with a smile. We can do that again, on a bigger scale. The local news buzzed with warnings of an impending cold snap, a severe freeze that would disrupt supply chains and cause vegetable shortages across the region. This is our chance, I declared, excitement bubbling up for the first time in weeks. If we stock up now while prices are low, we can sell when demand skyrockets. Juanita nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Let's pool our money. I've got some tucked away from the diner. We'll buy in bulk from the wholesale markets. We drove to the outskirts of town early the next morning, loading her old pickup truck with crates of fresh produce, crisp lettuce, ripe tomatoes, sturdy potatoes, and vibrant bell peppers. The air was crisp, filled with the earthy scent of the goods, and for a moment, I felt alive again, my arthritis momentarily forgotten as I hefted the boxes. How much do you think we'll make? Juanita asked, wiping sweat from her brow despite the chill. If the freeze hits as hard as they say, we could triple our investment, I replied, calculating in my head. Sure enough, the cold wave struck with fury. Temperatures plummeted, roads iced over, and grocery shelves emptied. We set up at local markets and pop-up stands, our breath fogging in the frosty air as customers clamored for our stock. 2 pounds of tomatoes, please. How much? A harried mother asked, bundled in a thick coat. $5 a pound today, ma'am. Supplies tight with the weather, I answered, handing over the bag with a smile. By the end of the week, we'd cleared $10,000 in profits, far more than I dared hope. Ava, you're a genius, Juanita exclaimed as we counted the cash at her kitchen table, the bills stacking up like a promise of independence. Emboldened, I bought a lottery ticket on a whim during a supply run, a simple scratch-off from the corner store. Scratching it absent-mindedly that evening, my eyes widened in disbelief. 50,000. Not a life-altering fortune, but a realistic windfall that felt like fate intervening. Juanita, look at this, I gasped, holding up the ticket with trembling hands. We're going places now, literally. With the combined funds, we invested wisely. Portland's suburbs were booming with new developments, so we purchased a modest fixer-upper house for $150,000, flipping it after quick renovations, new paint, updated kitchen fixtures, and a fresh coat of optimism. "This countertop needs granite," Juanita suggested during the remodel. Her sleeves rolled up as we worked side by side. "It'll add value." We sold it for $220,000, pocketing a tidy profit. Emboldened, we expanded her small diner into a chain, starting with 2 more locations in nearby neighborhoods. I became the face of the brand, Ava's Home Kitchen, with me in ads as the wise, welcoming grandmother figure, my floral blouses traded for neat aprons and a confident smile. Meanwhile, cracks in my family's facade began to show. I monitored their lives discreetly through social media, Ethan's posts about family struggles, Sophia's filtered photos hiding the tension, Dylan's vague updates hinting at financial woes. Isabella's perfect life selfies rang hollow, her smiles forced. As my success mounted, our diner chain hitting 10 locations, real estate portfolio growing to 3 properties, I received an invitation to a local charity gala for my budding donations to senior shelters. Dressed in a simple yet elegant blue gown that accentuated my kind blue eyes, I attended, shining under the lights while my family lurked in the shadows of their own making. The event buzzed with admiration. Ava Lockwood, the self-made entrepreneur. Whispers of envy from afar fueled my resolve. This was my ashes to riches story, logic dictating that hard work and opportunity could rebuild even the most broken life. Juanita and I had turned our initial vegetable venture into a burgeoning empire. Ava's Home Kitchen, with cozy diners scattered across Portland's neighborhoods, each one bustling with customers drawn to our hearty, home-style meals. The aroma of fresh-baked pies and simmering stews filled the air in our flagship location, where I often worked the counter, chatting with patrons and feeling a sense of purpose I'd long forgotten. "Ava, this place is a gem," regulars would say, their smiles genuine. But amid the ringing cash registers and glowing reviews, news from Seattle trickled in like unwelcome rain. My son's worlds were crumbling, and a part of me ached despite everything. It started with Ethan. His marriage to Sophia, once the envy of their social circle, imploded spectacularly when her embezzlement came to light. She'd been siphoning funds from his business accounts for years, funding her lavish lifestyle while pinning the blame on me during those tense family accusations. One evening, as I sat in Juanita's living room, surrounded by the soft glow of lamps and the faint scent of lavender from her garden, my phone rang. Ethan's voice cracked over the line, his usual composed tone shattered. "Mom, it's all falling apart. Sophia, she's been stealing from me, from the company. The auditors found everything. We're divorcing, and I'm buried in legal fees. Please, can you help? Just a loan to get through this. I promise I'll pay you back." I pictured him in his sleek home office, now likely cluttered with divorce papers, his broad shoulders slumped, his neatly trimmed beard unkempt from stress, and his glasses slipping down his nose as he paced. My heart twisted. After all, he was still my son. But memories of their cruelty held me firm. "Ethan, you called me a thief, a burden. You sided with her when she burned me with that hot water and accused me of everything under the sun. Why should I bail you out now?" There was a long pause, his breathing heavy. "Mom, I was wrong. We all were. I see that now. She manipulated me. Please, for old time's sake, I don't know what else to do." I sighed, weighing the words. In the end, I sent a modest check, not out of forgiveness, but as a final act of maternal duty, enough to cover his immediate bills but nothing more. "This is it, Ethan. No more handouts. Learn to stand on your own, like I had to." He thanked me profusely, his voice choked with tears, but the call ended with a hollow echo, leaving me to wonder if he'd truly change. Dylan's downfall followed a similar path, his pleas even more desperate. Isabella's extravagant spending, designer clothes, spa days, and unnecessary home upgrades had spiraled out of control, leading to maxed-out credit cards and a foreclosed townhouse. One afternoon, as I oversaw renovations at a new diner branch, the space alive with the sounds of hammers and the smell of fresh paint. Dylan showed up unannounced. He looked haggard, his tousled brown hair greasy, his perpetual 5 o'clock shadow now a full beard, and his mechanic's shirt stained with oil and defeat. Isabella trailed behind, her highlighted blonde waves disheveled, her usual poised demeanor cracked as she clutched a designer bag that now seemed ironically out of place. "Mom, we're in deep trouble," Dylan admitted, his voice low and ashamed. "The house is gone. Foreclosed last week. Isabella's debts. They're overwhelming. Can you loan us some money? Just to get back on our feet? A place to rent? Maybe pay off some bills?" Isabella chimed in, her eyes pleading but laced with remnants of her old smirk. "Ava, please. We didn't realize how bad it was. If you could help, we'd be so grateful. We'd even pay you back with interest." I crossed my arms, standing firm amid the construction chaos. "Dylan, Isabella, you treated me like an intruder in your lives. You believed every lie about me stealing, never once defending me. Why should I rescue you now?" Dylan hung his head. "Mom, I know we messed up. I should have seen through it all. But we're family. Doesn't that mean anything?" The word family stung, echoing their past dismissals. "It meant everything to me once, but you threw it away. No loan. Figure it out yourselves." They left dejected, Isabella muttering under her breath, but the encounter solidified my boundaries, no more enabling their mistakes. The threads unraveled further when I orchestrated a reluctant family reunion at a neutral cafe in Portland, hoping for closure but expecting drama. The place was quaint, with wooden tables and the aroma of fresh coffee wafting through the air. Ethan arrived first, looking thinner and more worn, his glasses fogged from the drizzle outside. Dylan and Isabella followed, their faces etched with exhaustion. "Mom, thanks for meeting us," Ethan started, his voice tentative. "We want to apologize for everything." Dylan nodded. "Yeah, we were blind to how we treated you." But their words felt rehearsed, lacking depth. I pulled out my old diaries, leather-bound journals I'd kept for years, chronicling my sacrifices, skipped meals to buy Ethan's school supplies, selling heirlooms for Dylan's wedding. "Read these," I said, sliding them across the table. "See what I gave up for you." As they flipped through the pages, tears formed. "Mom, I didn't know. You sold the house for my betrothal gift?" Dylan whispered, his eyes wide. Ethan choked up. "And the overtime for my college? We never appreciated it." Apologies poured out. "We're so sorry. We were wrong, selfish." But they rang hollow, tainted by their recent pleas for money. "Words are easy," I replied softly. "Actions matter. You've shown me who you are." The meeting ended in tense silence, their promises to change feeling like fragile threads ready to snap. The past wasn't done with me. Flashbacks haunted my quieter days, pulling me back to the raw realities of raising Ethan and Dylan alone after their father's untimely death. One vivid memory replayed often, Ethan as a wide-eyed 10-year-old, coming home from school with a note about needing new sneakers for the upcoming sports day. "Mom, all the other kids have cool running shoes. I don't want to be left out," he'd pleaded, his small hands clutching the crumpled paper, his tousled hair falling over his forehead. Money was tight back then. I was pulling double shifts at the diner, my feet aching from hours on concrete floors, my floral uniform stained with grease and coffee spills. "Okay, sweetie, we'll figure it out," I'd replied, forcing a smile despite the knot in my stomach. That night, after tucking him in, I skipped dinner, again, rationing our meager groceries to save every penny. I sold our only laying hen the next day, the one that provided eggs for our meals, just to afford those $50 sneakers. "Here you go, champ. Now you'll run like the wind," I said when I presented them, watching his face light up with joy. He never knew the hunger pangs I'd endured, the meals I'd forgone so he could fit in. Now, as an adult facing his own hardships, did he finally understand? Another echo came from Dylan's wedding day, a milestone I'd poured everything into. He was 25, beaming in his rented tuxedo, his perpetual 5 o'clock shadow neatly trimmed for the occasion. "Mom, this is the happiest day of my life. Thanks for making it possible," he'd said, hugging me tightly before the ceremony. But behind the scenes, I'd sold our modest family home, the one filled with memories of their childhood laughter and my late husband's tools in the garage, to cover the $20,000 down payment on their starter townhouse and the wedding costs. "Ava, are you sure about this? It's your security," Juanita had warned over the phone, her voice concerned. "It's for my boy. He deserves a strong start," I'd insisted, signing the papers with a steady hand despite the tears welling up. I moved into a tiny apartment afterward, scrimping on utilities to send them extra for furnishings.
"Mom, the house is perfect. Isabella loves it," Dylan had gushed later, never questioning the roof over their heads
Came from my uprooted life. These memories surged during their regret-filled calls, which came more frequently as their lives spiraled. Ethan rang one crisp autumn evening, his voice heavy with remorse over the line. "Mom, I can't stop thinking about everything you did for us. Remember those sneakers for sports day? I found an old photo and I realize now you must have gone without to get them. We were so blind, so selfish. Please, can we make this right? I want to apologize in person. Maybe visit Portland?" His words carried a genuine plea, but the pain of their past dismissals lingered. "Ethan, it's good you remember now. But where was this insight when you called me a thief? When you sided with Sophia and cast me out?" I replied calmly, my tone measured but firm. He sighed deeply. "I was wrong, Mom. Manipulated and ungrateful. Let me prove I've changed. Dylan feels the same. We both do." I listened, unmoved at first, but a small crack formed in my resolve. "Actions speak louder than words, son. Show me. Don't just say it." Dylan's call followed soon after, his voice breaking as he opened up. "Mom, reading your diaries, that entry about selling the house for my wedding? I had no idea. Isabella and I argued about it last night. She admitted she knew but never said anything. We've been so wrapped up in our own lives, ignoring what you gave up. Can we come down? Talk things through? Maybe start fresh?" The sincerity in his tone tugged at me, evoking images of him as a boy fixing bikes in our yard. "Dylan, those sacrifices were my choice, as a mother. But your betrayal wasn't just forgetting. It was accusing me, discarding me like I meant nothing. Why now?" He paused, then confessed, "Because we're losing everything, and it made us see how we lost you first. Please, Mom, give us a chance to make amends." The climax of these echoes came at the annual Portland Charity Gala, a glittering event in a grand ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers and elegant floral arrangements, where I was being honored for my contributions to local shelters. Dressed in a flowing sapphire gown that complemented my silver hair and brought out the sparkle in my blue eyes, I mingled with donors and community leaders, the air filled with soft jazz and the clink of champagne glasses. To my astonishment, Ethan and Dylan appeared uninvited, slipping through the crowd in ill-fitting suits that spoke of their financial straits, Ethan's tie slightly askew, Dylan's shirt wrinkled from the drive. They approached during the reception, desperation etched on their faces. "Mom, we had to come," Ethan said, his voice low amid the murmurs. "Seeing you here, shining like this, it hits home how much we've failed you. Please forgive us. Announce it publicly. Show the world we're family again." Dylan added, his eyes pleading, "It could help us rebuild. People knowing you've given us another chance. We're sorry for everything, the accusations, the neglect. Let us make it right." The crowd around us fell into hushed whispers, sensing the family drama unfolding. As I took the stage for my award speech, the spotlight warm on my skin, I addressed it directly. "Tonight we celebrate giving, both in charity and in life. But true forgiveness isn't granted on demand. It's earned through genuine change and consistent actions. To my sons, who are here unexpectedly, I love you, and I hope you've learned from our past. But reconciliation can't be forced in a moment like this. It builds over time, with trust rebuilt, brick by brick. Applause erupted, many nodding in approval of my honesty, while Ethan and Dylan stood humbled, their heads bowed as they slipped away into the night, the weight of their regrets visible in their retreating figures. Secretly, the grandkids began visiting. Ethan's young son Xander with his curly hair and infectious giggle, and Dylan's daughter Lily, a bright-eyed girl of 8 with a love for drawing. "Grandma, tell me about when Dad was little," Xander would ask during our park outings, his small hand in mine as we fed ducks by the pond. I'd share light-hearted stories, forging bonds away from their parents' influence, ensuring they knew love without the baggage of old grudges. "You're the best, Grandma," Lily whispered once, hugging me tight after a day of baking cookies in my kitchen. As for my sons, they rebuilt modestly. Ethan finding a lower-paying job in tech support, Dylan reopening a small garage with hard-earned lessons in frugality. Their calls now carried tentative hope. "Mom, we've been reflecting. Maybe therapy could help us all?" I'd listen, offering measured advice. "Perhaps, but start with yourselves." Lessons learned? Time would tell, but the echoes of the past no longer haunted me. They guided me forward, a testament to resilience and the power of self-worth.